Welcome to Skin Sync, the official podcast of Elevate-Derm Alliance, your trusted source for the latest in dermatology for PAs and NPs. Join our hosts for real clinician perspectives and expert guest insights as they explore everyday dermatology topics with practical takeaways.
Welcome to the next episode of the Skin Sync podcast. We are incredibly honored today to be joined by our guest, Robert Higham. He went to PA school and undergrad at the University of Southern California School of Medicine. He's a dermatology PA who worked for 20 years in clinical practice before transitioning to the pharmaceutical industry. Dun, dun, dun. He's been in Arcutis for over 6 years, and his current role is head of global advocacy. He's also held roles as executive director of clinical development and medical science liaison. He's a former past president of the SDPA and career long advocate of the dermatology PA profession. Robert, welcome to Skin Sync.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely.
So, Robert, you practiced clinically for over 20 years, right?
Right.
What was it that drew you to dermatology in the first place?
Well, that's a great question. I was kind of a later student in PA school and had a successful career in emergency medicine. I was a paramedic and I, enjoyed that, but really was thinking as I got older and what was my end game? Could I keep up with this kind of activity? And so I was toiling between going to nursing school or going to PA school. And so I decided to go to PA school. Fortunately, I was able to get in. And then I was like, well, gosh, now I got to figure out what I'm going to do. And my first thought was to go back into emergency medicine. But I realized the whole reason I got out of emergency medicine was to find a quieter life. And so the complete opposite of that is dermatology.
That's so true. Although now your life is probably, and it's taken so many
So many
amazing
turns.
twists and turns. It might even be a little bit more exciting
Yeah,
than the field of emergency
absolutely.
medicine. So, as past president of the SDPA, how did that leadership role influence your career growth? And how, in general, can leadership influence and kind of change the trajectory of a PA's career?
Yeah, I mean, I encourage leadership at some point for everybody. You don't always have to be the president of a national society, but there's something that you can give, especially as you kind of mature through your career, back to your career. That was really important for me. And so I started on the board and was a board of directors member and just kind of held a couple of roles, but eventually just kind of percolated up to the top position. But it really gave me a wealth of leadership skills, managing people. We see patients. I guess we manage patients really well as clinicians, but
Right.
managing patients, I will say, is very different than managing people. And so you had to learn, figure out how to form a consensus and bring people together even when maybe folks didn't have the same idea. But, working on a board, it's really understood to whether you believe it or not, if that's the decision that a board makes, everybody has to go in that direction. And that's what makes a successful board work.
Excellent. So, when did you first start thinking about transitioning out of the clinic and into industry? What
Yeah.
led to that decision?
Well, I mean, been seeing patients pretty much full time for 20 years. And I think had just turned 50 or right before turning 50. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is a long time. Am I going to keep on doing this? And there was increasing pressures in the clinic to, see more patients just to keep up with parity of, lifestyle and pay and those types of things. And so I felt myself kind of a little trapped. Like my plan was to start to cut back a little bit, but living in an expensive state like California,
Right.
that didn't really pan out. And so I just started, wondering what else is out there. And so I had worked with industry from the Society of Dermatology PA side for a decade. I always watched what people did, and so I just kind of thought, well, maybe that's an avenue to pursue.
And what skill sets from your clinical practice translated into your industry roles?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest skill set is just the knowledge of being a derm PA.
Sure.
You have so much to give. You have all this science based background that a PhD scientist, a PharmD, a whatever person that doesn't see patients has. You have that, and that you bring not only the expertise in terms of a medical background, but you also can advocate and bring the share of voice for the patient, which is also a very unique position to be at.
For sure. And maybe that's why it's becoming so very popular for clinicians to make this transition.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that companies are probably waking up a bit and saying, "Gosh, that is a nice perspective to have." You know, you want a diverse group of people on a team, and having clinicians on teams, PAs and MPs on teams, that's a very good thing.
For sure.
So where was your mindset when you did leave clinic? Were you kind of more nervous, excited, uncertain? How did you feel when you kind of had that last day of seeing patients in clinic?
Gosh, that last day was really weird. I was like, this is all I've done for 2 decades, and
Right.
I am walking out, like, slid my nameplate off the door because I wanted to take it, and I'm like, "Well, that's it. I hope this works out."
But
And
you quit cold turkey. Not that you quit, but you
oh, no,
stopped cold turkey.
Well, you
You
didn't
no.
didn't
taper down.
you
It's
didn't
just
slow
yeah.
down and only
No,
see
there was
patients 1 day a
like
week.
I kind of I don't know, 6, 8 weeks, I kind of told patients, "Hey, I'm leaving." You know, it wasn't like a 2-week notice or something
Right,
like that,
right,
but,
right.
I mean, I couldn't do that to I mean, my staff was devastated. I had my same medical assistant for 17 years. She was, like,
Wow.
devastated. And so there was a lot of assessing and just trying to, sort that all out.
Mhm.
Sure.
Um, but I was like, hey, I fortunately found a great company, and it was great to know some folks early on at the company, and so that made me feel secure.
Okay.
And I think in the end, I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back
Yeah.
and start seeing patients. Everybody needs a derm PA.
Yeah.
That's so true. But I love that the fact that you were so brave to just cannonball in. I think I would definitely dip my toe for a little while.
Yeah, I just did it. I'm not sure I mean, maybe now there's an opportunity to dip your toe in,
Yeah.
but back then you were either all in or you were out,
Right.
Right.
and there wasn't you couldn't hedge your bet.
So you've held several roles at
Yeah,
Arcutis and MSL, Executive Director of Clinical Development. Now you're head of global advocacy. So walk us through that progression and kind of tell us how that
sure.
happened and how you're excited, about the trajectory of this new role.
Yeah. Well, when I joined Arcutis, I joined as executive director of clinical development. So what that meant was our shop, which was a shop of 2 people at the time, me and my colleague, Dr. David Burke, who led our group. And we just to, got to work writing protocols for what now you all know as Zarif. And I think at one point, the 2 of us maybe had like 17 or 18 clinical trials going, and it was crazy amount of work. So we added to our ranks. We added another dermatologist. We had another dermatology PA, and we just kind of divided and conquered, and ended up with 4 uh, like great products that are out on the market with multiple indications. And I mean, that was like lightning in the bottle. That like just doesn't happen in drug development. It doesn't happen when you just start your first program successful, your second program, your third program, your fourth. You're like, it's just home runs. It's the probability of that happening again is it's like next to nothing. It's really unusual. So then within the question is, well, where do you go from there? And so, in biotech, it's not all butterflies and unicorns. When you have work, it's great, but then as projects wind down, they don't just like keep you around. And so we at that point took a business decision, and we were kind of shrinking our clinical development because we had a bit of a gap in our development pipeline, and we just weren't ready to go on to the next projects yet. So I filled in as we had lost a medical science liaison, and I had filled in that role, and it was exciting. It was like I always wanted to see what a MSL did in the field.
Yeah.
So I was the fill-in MSL or for the Pacific Northwest for gosh, almost 8 or 9 months, and had a great time. But really was always looking for that next thing that where my skills could really be utilized more. Not that they weren't utilized as a medical science liaison, but it's just something that I was more interested in. And so advocacy was a natural fit, just given my prior work at
Sure.
STPA. And so now I bring not only the clinician voice, the disease state voice, but also the patient voice to the conversations at large organizations, like the NPF or NEA, AAD, those types of those types of organizations.
So, what does your role look like? It's global advocacy. What does that mean at
Yeah.
Arcutis? What does that mean for patient care, for clinicians?
Sure. So advocacy is really a broad brush of a department or a skill set. My day looks like dealing with large organizations, finding out how our products, our diseases, how can we impact their patient groups? How can we bring education to that? Is there opportunities to kind of collaborate and do kind of a working project together? So we talk a lot about that. We talk a lot about policy. So step therapy, access to medications. So it's wonderful that there are new biologics and topicals and orals out there, but if none of our patients can't get it,
Right.
that's a problem. And so developing alliances and collaborating with different groups is a real part of it. And then we fortunately at Arcutis have a Canadian footprint. We have Arcutis Canada, that's a separate business. And so also helping our Canadian team out with similar organizations that are specific to Canada, and then supporting partnerships that we have in Asia and things like that.
I think our audience is going to be so excited to hear that behind these conversations is someone in the derm PA mindset. You've been there, you've worked as a clinician, and the fact that a PA is driving this conversation, with larger organizations and helping pave the way for future actionable steps that PAs are going to and NPs are going to be taking in the clinical field. I mean, I feel a lot better knowing that's
Oh,
coming
yeah,
from a derm
Yeah.
PA. So
absolutely.
that's phenomenal information. So thank you for sharing that. How do you think the role of derm APPs will evolve within industry? I think, this is something we were talking about,
Yeah.
the fact that there were not a lot of options for a derm PA to work in
Yeah.
industry 20 years ago. Maybe 10 plus years ago, you could become an MSL, and there was that amazing opportunity to educate your peers. But now I feel like the world is our oyster. There's so many opportunities. So where do you see that going, and what kind of opportunities are you most excited about for APPs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to continue to grow. It's very very early. I think many companies are realizing that Ps and MPs particularly bring a very unique perspective to a team. I personally think that our skill set as clinicians is best utilized in the medical side of the business as opposed to the commercial side of the business. There might be some opportunities in like the marketing side. So if you're kind of marketing interests, I think having a provider perspective would be very helpful for that. But I do think that from our science based training, our patient care, things like MSLs, working in medical affairs, whether it's in publications, whether it's in, um, medical inquiries, there are so many jobs, MSLs being one of them. Clinical development to a certain extent is an opportunity. There's so many jobs that I think PAs can naturally and MPs can naturally slot into.
And for those PAs and MPs who are interested in these industry roles, but they don't know what to
Yeah.
do, what are those first steps? What advice do you have to give to those people?
I would say talk to everybody. Network, network,
Yeah.
network. I literally talked to a PA this morning who called their regional sales director and I want to talk to a PA that works in industry, and they're like, I was here, and so I was happy to talk to her. And what I told her was that it's going to be very hard with zero like previous history in industry to jump into industry. And it's really going to be you're going to get in via a networking and a kind of expanding that network and kind of proving and sharing what you can bring to the table. It's fortunate now that companies are also seeking healthcare providers, PAs and MPs, but um, you know, make sure that that's the right fit for the job. It's hard to find the job, and it's easy to find or easier to find a job, right? But don't totally sell yourself out for a job, because you want to have your first experience to be a good experience.
Yeah.
And so that's where I would start. And then I would just there's a bunch of us now, and I would just seek, get very familiar with LinkedIn, find colleagues at conferences. When you come to Elevate, just like talk to people. They're here, and use your sales reps and your MSLs that you see locally. Just ask, like, do you have any PAs or MPs on their team? I want to talk to them. They'll be thrilled to talk to you.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think finding a disease state or a company that you're passionate about, a product that you're passionate about is a
Yeah.
great place to start.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if you really have a love of treating a particular condition, seek out those in industry within that disease space and find out more about it. Go to conferences, go to speaker programs, try to
Yeah.
become a speaker. But then even beyond that, if you're really interested on the science side of things,
Right.
there's opportunities for that now, which is so exciting. For those who don't want to completely leave direct patient care behind, for those of us who are not quite ready to cannonball, do you think that there are kind of part-time positions available? Or for somebody who may want to just do part-time MSL or more virtual
Sure.
opportunities, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think there might be. I will say that at Arcutis, we have 7 active clinicians, and two dermatologists. We have 3 dermatology PAs, a nurse practitioner. 3 of them still see patients, and actually, Arcutis encourages us. They volunteer maybe in a free clinic, and do things that are maybe not like what you were used to doing in your clinic where you were
Right.
working, but they keep their skill set up. And so I think finding a company that has that mindset is really great. I actually don't see patients, haven't seen patients in 6.5 years, but I think in 20 years I saw enough patients. I'm good. I left my mark, and I think in the future there might be an opportunity that maybe I can spend some time and get back, as time allows.
All right. So, final question for you, Robert. What are you most excited about in the future of dermatology? I know that's probably a loaded question and probably lots that you're excited about, but what are you most excited about right now?
Gosh, I think we're in a renaissance period in dermatology. I think there's companies like Arcutis and others that are coming back into the space, developing new drugs. I think the future is very bright in dermatology, and so I'm excited to see where it goes.
I think we would have to agree. Robert Higham, amazing Derm PA. We just want to say thank you for your time and thank you for really giving this information and maybe sparking some interest in some future opportunities out there as well.
And I hope you recognize that when we see your name on the Arcutis website and other NPs and PAs, I mean, it really does kind of motivate us. It gets us excited and helps you understand that you could do more than what you're doing right now. You're not limited to what your title is,
You're
right?
you're not limited, and yeah, it's been great sitting down and talking with you both. So.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for tuning in to SkinSync. Don't forget to subscribe to SkinSync on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. To explore more of Elevate's educational and career resources, visit elevate-derm.com. Please note, this podcast is for informational purposes only and not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult a licensed healthcare provider before making medical decisions. Clinicians must rely on their own judgment and training in all patient care situations.